Welcome back, all you fans of the most waggle-tastic and waggalicious console of all time. I'm your host Rob, and it's time to strap on your Wiimote and try not to hit a family member as we take a look at even more truly great hidden gems for the Nintendo Wii. Who are you gonna call for our first entry? Yes, that's right, it's Redfly Studios' 2009 Ghostbusters game. A game that on the more powerful consoles has become a bit of a cult classic. However, the Nintendo Wii version was largely seen as a downgrade thanks to the console's graphical limitations. This is not the case though, as in fact, in many ways, the Wii version of the title is far superior and isn't just a mere downgraded port, but actually its entirely own beast. Firstly is the overall story, which seeing as this is technically the Ghostbusters third entry that we never got to see in cinemas, is pretty damn important. The story in the Wii version is similar to other versions, but some scenes are also so much more fleshed out, expressive, and cinematic. It's a really nice touch that means even if you have played the more powerful console version of the game, there is so much new to see and experience in this title. Sure, the cartoony graphics and art style can't immerse you into the Ghostbusters world like the Xbox and PS3 versions do, but overlook the graphics, which do pop in color by the way, and you have the most well-rounded and well-told version of the story. There are times that the writing, script, and flair make you forget you're playing a game and instead are watching the long-awaited but never delivered Ghostbuster 3 movie. Next up is the controls. Normally with licensed games or ports, the Wii's motion controls had a tendency just to feel tacked on. But here, just like Resi 4, they feel fantastic and go a long way to make you feel like you're actually using all the Ghostbusters weaponry and traps. Pointing and blasting ghosts, then dragging them around rooms while every piece of furniture breaks and flies around, never gets old and is so goddamn satisfying. Add the fact the game packs in a ton of humor and even a co-op mode, and you have one of the best and most underappreciated experiences on the Nintendo Wii.
Ghostbusters, the video game.
Before we move on to the next gem, kindly help our channel grow by bowling your way over to the like and subscribe buttons. Thank you.
Nice throw.
Star Fox 64, or Lylat Wars 64, is one of those games that never seems to age. It's still as highly addictive as ever, and its blocky graphics still hold their charm all these years later. Unfortunately, however, Nintendo never really gave us a true sequel to the game, and instead decided to mess with the winning formula time and time again. So I present to you Counterforce, which is essentially a budget version of Lylat Wars 64 with Gundam-like mechs thrown in for good measure. The game is by no means perfect. It has N64 style graphics and the motion controls can be a pain. But see past all that, and there is a rough gem here that really can be a blast to play, especially when you are taking down the screen-filling bosses. Counterforce also packs in a suitably silly story to tie everything together, and once you've mastered the controls, you will be coming back time and time again just to try and beat your high scores. If you're a fan of on-rail 3D shooters like Star Fox or Panzer Dragoon, then I recommend you give Counterforce a go.
It's up to you to save the planet from General Zabiaks. This fall, all your favorite Kamen Riders come together for the ultimate head-to-head showdown. Kamen Rider Dragon Knight, the video game.
Kamen Riders is a pretty weird show. Think Power Rangers meets Yu-Gi-Oh! Apparently it was pretty popular, and still is, and just like any popular kid show, the game soon followed, and thanks to the lack of 1v1 fighters on the Nintendo Wii, I decided to try it out. And what I can tell you is, yeah, it's really fun, and far more than a simple cash grab. The overall combat mechanics are deep and varied, and the card-based powers are smartly implemented to give the game its own distinct flavor. And while I know little to nothing about the show, I did find myself really liking the characters and their abilities. They were interesting enough and visually different that I had to unlock them all and gain all the unique powers in the game. Trust me, there is a ton to unlock in this game. Once you've beaten the main arcade mode, the game also features a mode called Mirror World, which changes up the gameplay and mechanics in some truly interesting ways. I don't know, it's weird and wild and hella cheesy, but I kinda love it.
The entire Kamen Rider arsenal is at your command. Battle with advent cards.
That's right.
Summon contract beasts. Unlock new advent cards as you explore Ventara in over 100 single-player missions. Kamen Rider Dragon Knight.
Head east of here, and you will reach a tall red tower. I can't promise, but there you might find other survivors besides yourself. At that moment, I was truly alone.
Fragile Dreams is one of the most unique, visually distinct, and captivatingly eerie titles you can pick up for Nintendo's Waggle system. It's grand in design, sometimes cute, yet tragically haunting. Even more haunting is its £70 price tag. To sum up Fragile Dreams in the most basic way possible, is to say it's a survival horror title fused with a ton of anime personality and character that wears its Silent Hill influence proudly on his sleeve. The story centers around a young lad named Seto, who after burying his grandfather, decides to embark on an adventure into the sorrowful, desolated, isolated post-apocalyptic world of the game, in search of survivors while he struggles to deal with his grief and loss. It's a harrowing tale and incredibly immersive. The story isn't all doom and gloom though, as some of the character interactions and moments can be extremely heartfelt or just plain comedic. The story is heightened by a world and art style that oozes atmosphere, charm, horror, and creativity. It really is so compelling and made the game so hard to put down. Gameplay wise, there's your standard combat and exploration. Where the game innovates though is in its use of motion controls. Here you use the Wii's motion controls quite creatively, with the remote being used as a flashlight to help you spot enemies and clues in the dark, and even the often forgotten Wiimote speaker is fully implemented here in some really interesting ways that I won't spoil for you. All this and more just show how much care and thought the developers put into making sure no stone was left unturned in making the player as fully immersed in the game's world as possible.
Fragile Dreams. Farewell, Ruins of the Moon.
Who are you? Tell me.
My name's Seto.
Who are you?
The core gang had an extremely long and troubled development history, with various publishers and developers involved in the process, and while it may not have turned out like it was intended, the core gang is still a super fun and silly time filled with vibrant characters, Saturday morning kid show vibes, and simple yet punchy combat. The game is full of interesting ideas and has a great art style and a lot of amusing, immature humor. The platforming and level design and creativity are the true standouts here and why it's on this list. It's not the most well polished of titles and may be a bit too linear for some, but if you're a fan of action platformers and can find this on the cheap, it's well worth an evening binge.
Where do you think you're taking my prisoner?
We're setting him free.
Oh, really? Prepare for a painful death!
Hello, monster guy. I'm Rex. Now thrill me.
It's your turn to be like Rex.
Now this one took me by surprise, and I was pretty skeptical at first. I'd never seen the show, and it looked like some sort of Ben 10 knockoff to me. But then I was told you're a kid who can turn his arms into giant swords and buzzsaws, along with many other various tools of destruction. And the fact that you have a primate companion, voiced by none other than Jake the Dog, Marcus Phoenix, and Bender voice actor John DiMaggio, and I was sold.
Sorry I'm late, kid. What I missed?
Generator Rex, Agent of Providence, is essentially your typical action brawler, in the vein of God of War or DMC, but it's nowhere near as polished, so think more Splatterhouse or Lollipop, minus the F-bombs, blood, and boobs, as this is a kid's game after all. But as I see those games as hidden gems on their respective platforms, and the fact that I had a really good, turn my brain off, and enjoy the carnage and stupidity good time with this one, then maybe you will too.
The weapon. I'm quite the guy.
Generator Rex, Agent of Providence.
ありがとう。あなたは一人じゃないわ、ロデア。天空のガルーダを私たちで救うの。
Coming from the mind that created Sonic, we have Rodea the Sky Soldier, a game that kinda feels like if you took the floaty, blissful, dreamlike steady flying of Nights into Dreams and injected it with the insanity and speedy adrenaline-fueled chaos of a Sonic title. Probably shouldn't work, but somehow it really does. Essentially, the game is a platformer with a ton of super fun, zippy flying thrown in, and a healthy amount of arcade score chasing. There are some odd design choices here and there, but the whole game is just an intuitive thrill from start to finish that I really did struggle to put down. Not only as I enjoyed the gameplay, but for the simple fact the game had me laughing so much. Your character is basically a kinda cyborg who doesn't understand the world he's in, which leads to some incredibly amusing dialogue with all the characters he comes across. It's over the top anime stupidity, but in the best way possible.
記憶が全部戻ったら私の知らないロデアになっちゃうのかな。
Seeing Wario in his yellow and purple classic costume will always make me smile, as it brings back fond memories of being a young nipper playing Wario Land 4 endlessly on the GBA. Unfortunately though, these days Wario's some sort of biker who just sticks to minigame shenanigans, which is kinda a shame as Wario's platformer offerings have always been of the highest quality and oozing in weird charm. Wario Land Shake It is no different and combines the best platforming elements of a 2D Mario game with Donkey Kong Country's more chaotic elements, then adds a whole lot of character and personality to give players something that feels similar yet creatively different at the same time. Firstly, I have to praise the stunning, almost hand-drawn 2D graphics, as they are absolutely beautiful, as are the gorgeous, fully animated cutscenes. Secondly is the game and the character's personality. Everything Wario does is coated in the character's slapstick crude humor and lovable anti-hero quirkiness, from his movement and abilities right down to his idle animations. They are so well thought out and implemented that you can't help but smile throughout your playthrough with Shake It. This creative flair isn't just heaped onto Wario, however, as all the game's bosses and enemies and NPCs are also so stylistically fun and meticulously animated to give the game's world such an expressively captivating tone and living, breathing cartoon vibe. It's so incredible. That's just the tip of the iceberg of why this game is so great though. There's also the content. This game is packed with an absolute ton to do and collect that will have you playing for hours. The gameplay is tight and just feels so natural. The music is gorgeous. I could go on and on. If you haven't played this yet, go grab your gold coins and do so immediately. Right, that's it for today. I hope we have given you some great games to see you through the cold days of winter. Let me know your favourite Wii hidden gems down below, and as always, stay tipsy.